Welcome back. We hope you had a pleasant break. Let's continue with our presentations. The next speaker is Monica Luizio, Compliance Director at Eletron. She will present some topics about enforcement regarding extended producer responsibility. Please, Monica, you're our guest.
So good morning, everyone. Again, thank you so much for this session. It is a pleasure being here and try to share with you some of our experience enforcing the extended producer responsibility policy here in Portugal. And please feel free to ask any questions along the presentation. Let's make this interactive and hopefully learn from each other and from our experience. So, as I was saying, let's start with the basics. So, as Pedro and Pascal already mentioned, the EPR policy, it's namely making the producers of the products accountable for the whole life cycle of the products. So they no longer discharge their responsibilities whenever they sell the products, but they are accountable for the end of life of the products. So they are responsible to financially assure that the sorting, the collection, and the treatment are well done and in an environmentally friendly way. So they have to support it financially. So why do we need this kind of policy? Why does this thing started in the beginning? So some waste streams, only because they are a fast-growing stream or if they have containing some hazardous fractions, some countries and some systems don't have the means to properly collect and treat these kinds of waste streams. So in order to build these kinds of infrastructures, to build these kind of networks, it was necessary to develop a policy that would allow countries or systems to have the proper means in order to treat these waste streams. So, as also Pedro mentioned in his opening act, some streams they don't have a drive for the collection and treatment because they cost money. So it has to have a policy behind it that allow them to be correctly sorted and treated. I think one good example are refrigerators. For instance, if you take a refrigerator and if you don't treat them properly, if you don't take out the gas or if you don't take out the oil and the polyurethane, the revenue of the materials, it's profitable. You can make money by doing that. But this is not a good solution. So we have also to take into account the necessity to treat the hazardous components. So if, on the other hand, you put a fridge into a correct treatment, that the revenue of the materials, it's not enough to cover the collection, the sorting, and the whole treatment. So in this specific case, even if you have some materials that are valuable, they are not enough to guarantee the treatment, the proper treatment of the waste stream. So these are a couple of aspects that identify the need of this kind of policy in order to have a whole system working in an environmental friendly way. So to give you an overview of this policy throughout the world, as well as the waste streams, the EPR systems are also a fast-growing policy, let's say. If you take this chart, for example, there are over 400 EPR systems in the world. So there are many, many countries that are applying this policy in order to take care of these specific waste streams that need this, let's say, speed in order to put them in the right track of the waste management. If we dive into the specific waste stream landscape, we can see that the e-waste is the waste stream that has more EPR systems throughout the world. It represents 35% of these collective take-back schemes. Then we also have used tires, packaging, end-of-life vehicles and their own batteries. And of course, another content of other waste streams such as portable batteries, packaging of medicines, and emerging waste streams such as textile, construction, oils, several of different other waste streams that are already looking to EPR policy as a way of building their infrastructure and doing this collection in the right way. So here I bring you a scheme of how the extended producer responsibility is organized in let's say, a macro organization. So how does this work? So when producers sell their own products, they charge a fee, normally per ton or per equipment or per product. In our case, is per ton. And this contribution is sent to the producer responsibility organization in order to finance the whole end-of-life market value of the waste streams. So with this fee, what do the producer organizations do? So they finance the main activities, and the main activities are within municipalities, retailers, distributions that build up the collection network. So the network of collection, and of course the treatment and the proper depollution and sending the materials back to the production of other products. So these are the two main activities, so collection and treatment. In our country and as well as in other European countries, this contribution also allows the systems to monitoring and audit the whole system. So we have to perform audits and make sure that our partners are doing the right job according to the rules. And also, as Ricardo says, in our license, we are obliged to spend money on communication and awareness campaigns. So a part of our budget, so a part of this fee is destined to finance this public awareness for the consumer to know where he has to put or discharge their waste. Another component of the fee goes to research and development. So we also are obliged by our license to spend a part of our budget on research and development projects. So we also are part of other European projects that fit into this category. So we have to make sure that we have a budget also for these kind of projects. And this is how, in a nutshell, the PRO systems work. Now, going to our specific market, just to give you a chronologic view on when we started and where we are now. So we started over 20 years ago with packaging. Then the batteries, the tires, the end-of-life vehicles, the oils also came into the EPR landscape. Then in 2006, Electron was established as the market leader for waste stream. Then in 2010, we also obtained our second license for managing batteries. And in 2017, we became the first PRO to have 3 licenses under our umbrella, as we embrace packaging also into our portfolio. I can give you some fresh news. We received our 3rd generation of license last Friday. So we are now looking for new rules. It's like a reboot to the system. Okay, we had a set of rules for 5 years, and now we have a new license for every different stream. So we have to look into it and adjust to this new set of licenses. I'm going to go back here to 2017 because this was an important landmark. As we have more than one PRO in the market, we we need to have a different body that sets the rules for the compensation and allocation between systems. So it's like a kind of referee that says you have to collect this or you have to pay that to each PRO that is placed in the market. So let me just show you a little bit of the work of this clearinghouse. We call it a clearinghouse. So whenever a PRO collects under his market share, he has to pay a financial compensation to another PRO that's in the market that, for instance, collects above its market share. So it's very difficult for each PRO to really have this collection spot on their market. So if one collects more or less, they have to financially compensate each other in order to both systems have their responsibility met according to this market share. So this works in the three waste streams. And in packaging, as only the municipalities have the responsibility to collect, we cannot establish our own collection network. For the packaging, only the municipalities have this responsibility. They have to forecast what they expect to collect, tell this clearinghouse, and this clearinghouse establish exactly which PRO goes to which municipality to collect X amount of waste. So for electronic waste and batteries, if we want, we can build up a collection center in a company, in a distributor, whenever we want. In collection of packaging, we cannot do that. It's reserved to the municipalities. And if it's reserved to the municipalities, we have to have a set of rules on how to go there, which PRO goes there, which frequency, and which quantity to collect. So this is an important tool that the countries have whenever they have competition among one waste stream. Okay? So the EPR policy enforcement in Portugal. So if we want to build up extended producer responsibility system, what do we have to do? So if we are an organization of companies, if we are producers and we are selling in Portugal, which are the rules? What do I have to do? And this could be somehow a reflection of what you can develop in your country. So in Portugal, I highlighting these 5 steps, and then we could dive into those a little bit later. So we have the possibility to do an individual or an integrated system. So the producer can assume their responsibility for their waste by their own, or to join a collective take-back scheme together with other producers and establish a collective take-back scheme. How do I obtain my license? So I have to go into the legislation of each country, see the rules of each country, and then obtain the license according to those rules. I will go through them in the Portuguese case. When we have the license, which are the main activities that we have to do right away? And this is quite fresh in our organization because, as I said, we just received our 3 new licenses. And whenever we are in speed cruise, let's say, which are still the requirements, the reporting, the monitoring, the audits that we have to report to our national administration in order to keep our license. By doing that, we also, and at the end, we also have to have a close look to all different kinds of legislation, European, national norms, certifications, actually to build a compliance map in order to prevent non-conformances, fines that we could incur. So it's very important to determine and to really go into the several different requirements that we have in our country in order to be preventive and avoid this kind of fees. So in Portugal, as I said, individual systems are not a common solution. We don't have knowledge of any producer that has established an individual system. So I don't think it's a common way of doing it. So in Portugal, we do have integrated systems. And normally, these organizations are non-for-profit and private-owned. They can be a company or an association. In case of Eletrão, we are a producer association, not a company. But you may choose. But the important thing is non-for-profit. It's also one of the requirements to join the WE Forum, as Pascal was saying previously. So in our country, the PROs have to be constituted by producers and a minimum of 70% of producers of that own product. So it's important to fill in this requirement. So waste streams, so 70% of the producers have to put WE on the market. The PROs cannot integrate any other entities that could generate a conflict of interest. For instance, waste management companies, that's a clear conflict of interest, of course. If we had a waste treatment operator in our board, of course, this would influence the decisions and wouldn't be a clearly transparent way of working. So the legislation excludes this kind of participations with conflicts of interest. And lastly, very important, the PRO cannot distribute the profits. So whenever we have a profit at the end of our year and our activity, we cannot distribute the profits to our producers that incorporate our association. We can reinvest in our own activities, or we can lower the fee. So if we have a profit, we don't need to honor so much our producers next year, so we can propose to the national authorities a decrease on the fees that they have to pay. So this is the main aspects between an integrated and an individual system. So in order to submit an application to become a PRO, there's a set of rules. You have to submit this application, and to submit this application, you have to study your market. As also Pascal was suggesting, you have to know your estimates, you have to know your waste, you have to know your cost, you have to know your infrastructure, and then you have to wrap up this in a submission. So you can see, you have to present the administration, which are your owners, the way you are working. You have to present the staff that is going to run this PRO, if they have the technical skills. So whenever we present a submission, we have to say that our operational manager has a degree in engineering and is qualified to run the collection and treatment network, that Anna has also experience in communication. So it's very well detailed. They have to know if you have the capacity to run a PRO. So you have to share the technical characterizations of the waste, the quantities, the volumes. You have to also share all the financials, how you are going to calculate the fees according to the put on the market, and what do you expect to collect, and what you are going to charge your producers for these fees. So you have to put all this into a submission, and at the end you have to make a public consultation to your stakeholders in order for them to make remarks or say whatever they want. And then you present this to the state, and you wait and cross your fingers for getting a permit. That's what happened yesterday. So we received our renewed license. We have now a license for 10 years, which is quite good, because our previous license was only for 5 years. Now this new license is for 10 years. I think this is an important KPI for attesting that the EPR policy is a good policy, because we receive the trust from the state for having an extended license. So this is a good policy to run these kinds of waste. And of course, we always have to pay for the state. So we have to do a deposit in order for them to evaluate and make sure that we are doing the right thing. So in terms of bureaucratic and for the representatives of the environmental agencies here, I think this is a good benchmark. So now we received our license. What do we have to do in the next couple of months? We call it a one-shot action. We have to do it in the beginning of our license. We have to present the activity plan for the 10 years, so for the whole license. We have to have this kind of reflection on what we're going to do in 10 years, but we have to present it. Also, a macro plan for R&D and communication. We are now working on our financial model for the 10 years of the license. So we have to foreseen what we are going to charge. Of course, these financial models can be reviewed every year. They are not set in stone, but at the beginning of the license, we have to present a model. We also have to present to our national authorities all the drafts of the contract. We cannot sign a contract that has not been screened by the national authorities. They have to have access to all the contracts. So we have to build up contracts with collection sites, with municipalities, with retailers, with treatment facilities, and shared with our national authorities. And then we also have to present specific studies on specific topics, such as eco-modulation, which is now a topic, or return deposit project, also for some kind of streams. So this is what we have to do in the next couple of months. So whenever we are in cruise velocity, let's say, we also have to keep interacting with our national administration by the reporting cycle and also assuring the monitoring and audit cycle. So the main periodic reports, you have to present an annual report. We have to present annual plans on top of the macro plan for the whole license. Every year we have to present plans for the next year, such as activity plan, research and development, communication plan, the financial information such as the budget, and auditing actions. So we have to this shall be scrutinized by our national authorities. We also have periodic reports. We report now each semester, and in these reports we have to send them our put on the market, our collection network, the tons we have collected, financial data. So this is heavily bureaucratic, let's say. And also we have some monthly reports regarding especially the allocation methods. Regarding the monitoring and auditing cycle, we are obliged to audit our producers. So whenever they send us their sales, we have to audit according to a plan and see if they are reporting the sales exactly as they are selling it. If we want to present a financial model to determine the fees, we have to audit that model. So it has to come a third party and say that we did the calculation right. So this is another auditing. Whenever we select our collection centers or our treatment partners, we set up tendering process, and those tenders also have to be audited. So we cannot choose a treatment partner if we want. They have to go through a tendering process, and at the end, a third-party company comes and checks if we selected according to the rules. So normally it's not a negotiation. We at front define the rules and which weights we want to measure in the tender, and we have like a calculation form that gives us, we select this treatment partner for this waste stream, and it has to be verified. Our annual activity and our annual reports also have to be audited by a third party. So at the end of each year, when we are closing our accounts and our activity, a third party comes and checks if we did our job correctly and if the figures met or meet whatever we have in the IT platforms on our registers, and gives us a conformity verification assurance that the activity and the report were done correctly. On top of that, we also do compliance exercise in order to check if our research and development projects are in order, communication projects as well, because we have requirements in order to apply some kind of projects into our plan. So we cannot choose a project if this project doesn't meet certain kinds of requirements as well. So we also like to check this, as well as our legal requirements, in order to make sure that we are not stepping out of the comfort zone of the legal requirements. So what do we want to avoid by doing this? We want to avoid non-compliances. And I would like to highlight two of them. One is the waste management fees. So if we don't meet a certain target that is defined or in the law or in our license, we have to pay a fee for each ton that is below that target. Just to give you an overview, it's very difficult to achieve, for instance, the collection targets on waste, and our fine this year is already of 500,000 euros, just to give you an impression on how these fees are heavy and have to be accounted in our budget and in our financial models. So if we don't meet the targets, we have fees applied. If we have any other non-conformances, the national authorities can send notifications to environmental inspection body, and we also can be fined by not complying with different kind of requirements. So for instance, if we don't share a contract with the authorities, and if they spot it, they can send a notification to inspection body, and then they can fine us. So this compliance map, it's very important for us to keep track of our requirements and avoid these non-conformities. So just to give you an overview and to end my presentation, I'll share with you our compliance map, which is all the requirements and all the legislation that we have to comply here in Portugal. So these more dark circles are the national legislation and all the requirements regarding the national legislation. Then we have European legislation that interfere directly with our activity. In blue, we have internal rules. So also, of course, within our manual, within our internal rules, we also have to make sure and give feedback to our administration and to our board that we are complying with our internal rules. And of course, we also have certification and other directives that are not directly defined or don't make a direct impact on our activity, but are also important in order to allow us to be excellent on our performance. So it's important to draw this map and keep on track of all the requirements. So this is my presentation for you today. So if you have any questions, please feel free.
Well, thank you, Monica, very much for your information. Actually, I have some questions related to the first the relation between the EPR and the PRO. Okay, and because within your presentation you have said that a group of EPRs will be sort of responsible in front of the authorities through a PRO, and they have shared within the rights and all that. So we need to clarify somewhat the relation between the EPR and the PRO. This is the first question.
Okay, so the EPR, the extended producer responsibility, is the policy. So it's the main frame that allows the different states within Europe, in this case, to define the way they want to manage their waste streams. So the EPR defines that the producer is responsible for their own product. So if he's responsible, he can do it together with other producers in an association or in a company, and together they can build a network for collection and for treatment. So it's much easier to develop this kind of infrastructure of setting up collection points, of contracting treatment plants together within an association or within a company, than doing it individually. That is why we don't have any producer individually setting up collection points and treating their own product. So normally they associate themselves within an association such as Eletron. We are composed over 2,000 producers now, so many producers that we have within our association that join forces in order to set up this producer responsibility organization. So Eletron is a producer responsibility organization. It's a gathering of producers that together developed the collection and treatment network to deal with these three waste streams. So e-waste, batteries, and packaging.
But let me ask more broad question about not only the producers within these organizations, but what about, for example, the devices that were available before these PRO had been developed? So we still have devices that are not collected, and maybe they are not related to this group of PROs within these organizations. So how you can deal with this?
Okay. Before we had a PRO organization for dealing with this waste stream, we already had some kind of treatment, but it was not in the right way of doing it. When a PRO is built up, the way the waste is treated, they do not distinguish the brands. So the collection points are open for every different kind of products, and they collect and treat wherever it enters the collection center. So it doesn't divide according to brands or according to types. It only the only impact that they have is the kind of waste. So, for instance, a lamp has to be collected in a specific container, but we don't make difference if it is Philips or Osram or anything. We collect every different lamp. If we have another PRO that is also working in that stream, the clearinghouse then adjusts the share of each PRO in terms of financial balance between PROs. But we can, in our collection centers, collect and treat brands that are, let's say, a responsibility of another PRO. We don't make any difference.
But this, let me say, maybe for the committed companies, for example, they take the social contribution and the responsibility toward the community regarding the waste management. But what about the companies that are not following the EPR system and say they have other devices that are not?
We call it free riders or pirates. That's what we call them. So whenever we have a suspicion or that there are a group of producers that don't comply with the EPR system, we can send a list to our environmental inspection body, as I said previously. So so they can go after them because we are not an inspection body. We can only do our business and we are not let's say the police. So we cannot do that. But having said that, what we do, we try to identify those free riders in order to decrease the share of the producers that don't contribute to the PRO. In order to give our producers the information, the proper information, in order for them to meet their social responsibility requirements, at the end of each year, we developed a report. And according to each producer's market share, we give them back the information saying, as you belong to our PRO, and as we collected X amount of waste, according to your market share, you can say to your stakeholders that you collected this amount. So we give them back our figures according to market share. So they can say that they collected as well, together with the other producers, they collected and they treated X amount of waste.
Sorry, I'm not a lot of questions.
No, feel free.
But okay, you were talking about the profit that could be at the end of the year, and some PROs could find that they had some profit, and they have to they report about. But what if a gap occurred at the end of the year? There's still a gap, financial gap, for the management system all over the year. What was the situation?
Okay, so we have these financial models that we have to present every year. These financial models calculate the fees that we have to, that the producers have to pay us. So if we, the end of a year, do not have a profit, if we have a loss, either our reserves are enough to do not increase the fees by a certain period, or if they are not enough, we have to present a revision of that model, and the fees have to go up in order to cover the loss of last year.
Last question. Which authority? You said that there is monitoring and reporting and verifying authority. Which authority?
So
at the end we are governmental.
Very good.
So we need to.
Very good. So in Portugal, we have two ministries that scrutinize our activities. So it's the environmental ministry under the Environmental National Agency, which is called APA. Then we can share also the links of their websites. And we also have normally the economical ministry. So it's under, we call it the general management for economic activities. So both look at our activity and have to give some feedback. I think it's a good solution because the environmental agency looks more to our environmental aspects, if we are doing a proper job collecting, treating, and the agency within the economical ministry looks more closely to our budget, to our financial model. So I think it's a good solution to have both ministries looking at this EPR enforcement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, thank you, Monica, for the clarifying of the body here in Portugal. But my question is about, you said that collecting the appliances, electric appliances, maybe not be visible if we do it in the right way. It means it's not profitable for the collecting itself. So here the enforcement is not a solution because we have to go to win-win situation. So why we don't make policies or some instructions to go to the manufacturer itself? For example, if you talk about the fridge, after 20 years, for example, 20 years of using the fridge, why I go to the manufacturer, for example, the company that make the fridge, and after 20 years, she offer me to take the fridge after 20 years and for a certain amount of money. Here, I think we have the old cycle.
Okay, it's a great question. I can give you some examples of this kind of experience in Europe. We didn't have that in Portugal because we learned from our colleagues in Europe. That is called a deposit solution. That is very difficult to put into practice after if the product has a lifespan, a very big lifespan. So I can say that some colleagues in Austria had that kind of solution. They put a sticker on the fridge and saying this fridge paid a deposit bank, and at the end of the life cycle, we have here the amount of money to treat that kind of fridges. What happened was that the companies broke, the sticker got lost, and the piling of money within this deposit increased. So it did increase a lot, and the national authorities got that money back. So it was not a very practical or good solution. So it was tested before, and as it was not very successful, we in Portugal did not implement it. So the most common way of doing it now, it's the solution of pay as you go. So you dimension your collection and treatment, not based on what you are going to collect or treat 30 years from now or 20 years from now. You dimension your collection fee of what you expect to collect next year. Whatever brand, wherever stream, you make this kind of forecast, and the producers today are paying for the waste that is arriving today, not in the future. And with this, you have a more flexible scheme of financing, and you don't have a problem with producers that go out of market, or it's a better solution for now. Of course, this is not perfect, and we also now have, as we discussed earlier, PV panels. So PV panels, what is happening is that the curve of putting on the market is like this, and very few PV panels are arriving into the market. So we have to make a specific financial model for PV panels, because if not, we were charging a very low fee for a very fast growing stream. So we have to make some kind of balance. From our experience, what we have to say is that those kind of return deposits, they are maybe a good solution, but for products that have a lower expectancy lifetime. So we are now, and under this new directive, new license, we have to develop some studies on deposit and return way of working. But we are perhaps thinking about an incentive and not a deposit. Yeah. So I don't think it's according to the experience, we don't think it's a very good solution.
It's sufficient for car batteries in Egypt to redo. When you get the new battery, then you take the old one and make it to the manufacturer.
That's for car batteries.
Yeah.
Because they are money.
Because the lifetime is short.
And you can, and as Susanna said, you can think about an incentive. It's not a deposit. It's not the money is waiting here until the end of the life expectancy of the product, but is an incentive for people or small companies to go and deliver the waste, so you can increase your volumes. Thank you so much, and if you have any further, please.
Thank Thank you so much, Monica. Before we break for lunch, we have one more presentation. Please join me in welcoming Andrea Craveiro, Collection Network Coordinator at Eletrão, who will address the challenge and solutions for scrapped appliances supply chain. Please, Andrea.
So, as I said previously, my name is Andrea Craveiro. Thank you for inviting me and for being here. Currently, I manage the supply chain or the points of collection for appliances, old appliances and batteries. And I'll share with you some challenges, but also some solutions that Eletrão has found, in 20 years, almost 20 years experience, solutions that we have found to collect more from households. So the first thing, before we start, because it's late and we're all tired, I want to ask you, what happens when your old refrigerator breaks down and you buy a new one, and what do you do with the old one in your countries? What happens?
It's our home, at our home or at the second apartment or anything.
It depends.
But it's not working. It's not working.
No.
But it stays in the house.
Yes.
If it is not working,
I might explain because people are considering this as part of their history. So
Okay.
they usually keep it on the rooftop, in the garage or something. You don't lose it, you don't sell it, but just keep it like that. So, yeah.
What if they don't have the space or they move houses? They'll take with
they
them.
can sell it.
Houses is very crowded.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. And in
So-
all the Asian countries, actually, not only for Egypt.
But also some other people sell it.
Sell it?
Yes.
Yes.
They sell it to whom?
For some
Sold
poor
this-
people or something like this.
It's informal sector.
Informal. So one will take the metals and make a
Yes.
profit of it. Okay. So that happens as well in Portugal. So here we can think about the challenges. If we have an EPR system in place, and we are, as Eletrão, we are PRO, we have compliance to take care of, and we have to obviously collect as much as we can, because we assume this responsibility from the producers that we'll collect a certain amount every year. And we're battling to try and collect more from people who are hoarding their household appliances. So when you think about the challenges, what challenge can you think of in terms of trying to collect more appliances, old appliances from people? Can you think about challenges?
I think the first one is the collection.
The logistics of it?
Yes. And also the safe disposal.
The safe disposal,
Yes.
a place to dispose that is safe.
Yes.
And awareness? Do you think people are aware?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of challenges, I'll point out 3 challenges: market challenges that we've talked about extensively here today, behavioral challenges that someone has also talked about, and material challenges. So in terms of market challenges, is the amount of e-waste that is being generated in the world that is growing at a really rapid pace. And these are numbers, worldwide numbers from a report from the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. And what they say is that e-waste generated is outpacing our capacity to collect it and treat it formally by a factor of 5. And obviously, this is a challenge, the amount of waste that is being generated. Then you have the market challenge that we talk about here today. The cost the costs outweigh the benefits in this graphic, but only if you think about the indirect costs, the costs to the environment, the costs to the health of people. If you think about the direct costs, they're very small. It's just the 10 million, the light pink. If you think about the benefits from selling the materials that have value are only 28 million US dollars. But the benefits of the avoided greenhouse emissions are almost double it almost. So this is a market challenge, obviously, because someone has to finance the system, because if it's bad for the environment, it's bad for our health. Where we get the money to do it. Then we have the behavioral challenges, and you talked about the behavioral challenge, which is hoarding. People just keep it in their house. It's part of my history. So for consumers, people who use the equipment, waste is something we do not want. So if we don't want it, when action is required to treat it, to take care of it, I don't want it. So I'll do what's easiest to do. Then there is this factor is if it's made of metal, then it goes where metal goes, right? But maybe the refrigerator is made of metal and other things. So then what's in it for me? What is in doing the right thing to my old appliance? What's in it for me? What do I get from that? You know, it's good for the environment. It's good for. What do I get from that? It's very. Who will keep me from making a quick buck and selling my old appliance? No one was regulating, so I'll just do that and sell it to a scraper. Then also have challenges from scrapers in informal markets, because they do exist. They're working. They have their economic interests. Metal is metal, no matter if it comes from a refrigerator or from metal piece. It's metal. What about my business, my employees? I have a business model based on selling and getting and selling metal, not on taking care of appliances that also contain plastic and hazardous materials and all that. If someone else discarded it, then I can take it, informal markets, If it's in the street, I can take it and sell it because no one wants it. Hoarding, you talked about this. So these are numbers from a study done in the European Union. And it says that in European households, we have 74 electrical equipments. And 4 of them are not working and are hoarded. If we did this study in Egypt, maybe it's 10 or 15 from what you tell me. Then we have the informal markets. And this is based on a study that Electron did. We placed GPS, so tracking systems, in old appliances and delivered them to the formal collection points. So municipalities and formal collection points where they should be placed. And what we found out is that 3 out of 4 ended up in informal markets anyway. So even if you have a formal collection system, it still has leaks. Some appliances, or a lot of the appliances delivered there, will also leak into the informal market. Then you have the material challenges. When you think about appliances, they come in all shapes and sizes. You have a refrigerator that is a certain size. Then you have a battery or a phone that is small. So setting up a collection points logistics for things that are different sizes, it's a challenge. Also, it's something that households don't produce every day. When you set up a collection points for packaging or for general waste, households produce it every day, but not appliances. It's not produced every day. So it's very difficult to set up, a system, a collection system that is correctly dimensioned for what will come up. Then you also have to take into account that appliances have hazardous materials. Hazardous for people, hazardous for the environment. So you have to keep them as whole. A refrigerator where the condensator, what is called?
Capacitor.
The
Capacitor.
compressor has been removed, as already released CFCs into the atmosphere. So you need to take into account it should be whole. Then also you need to take into account that it contains valuable materials. So people will try to make some money out of it. If it's in the street, I'll take it and I'll sell it and make some money. So, any questions about the challenges? Do you want to add some challenges that you thought about along the way? No? Okay. So into the solutions area. So in the solutions area, I'll mainly explain what Electron has done. Obviously, there are many other solutions, and you'll find them if you contact organizations like the We Forum. They'll be able to share a lot of other solutions with you. So we'll talk about three kinds of solutions. First, establishing a network of collection points. Then developing a collection service, because if you have collection points, you have to have the logistics to take the materials from there to where they're being treated. And then obviously raising public awareness and at collection sites. So I'll focus on raising awareness at collection sites in this presentation. Establishing a network of collection sites. So Electron has been growing its network of collection sites year after year. So this is very small. So this is 2019 here, and this is 2023. And just from 2022 to 2023, we increased 35%. This is obviously a lot of work here. And we also try to make sure that we have collection points that are distributed in the whole country, in the territory, so that people can use them. This is the same numbers, but for batteries. What are these places? So we have collection sites, for instance, at fire stations. Why fire stations? We'll talk about a little bit about that in the future, ahead in the presentation. Also at schools, retail is a big part of collection places. Then we have urban waste management systems, consolidation facilities, and other. So this network is quite diverse. These collection sites, here on the left, we have number of collection sites, type of collection sites, and there we have the we collected. And what you'll see is that sometimes we have a lot of collection sites, but they represent very little we collected. For instance, schools are 8%, and we collect only 2% there. But then we have the waste management systems, which are municipally owned. They represent 2% of the network, but we get from there 29%. So they're not all equal, but they're important in their way. So what happens from collection sites to treatment? So collection sites from consumer, the consumer will take their old appliances to a collection site, and then Electron will do a collection there and take it to a consolidation facility, a facility that will consolidate the materials, sort out the appliances, and then they'll go on to treatment facilities. Also, we have a new project where we're collecting directly from the consumer's home for big appliances. And so we have that goes directly into a consolidation facility that you'll be able to see tomorrow. Then we also have e-waste from companies. So in European legislation says that if a company produces e-waste, they need to document what they do with it. So then there needs to be a documentation of what happens to that e-waste. So there we'll do on-site collections at the companies, and we'll take it to a consolidation facility. Sometimes when facilities or companies that have a lot of product, sometimes we can do it directly into specialized recycling facilities if they have a lot and it's already sorted. For instance, for retail, we do that. Then solutions for e-waste collection, the logistics of it. So basically, we have collection sites, we have consolidation facilities, and we have different kinds of logistics. And we'll talk about a little bit about that. So we have the logistics done at Ponto Electrão. Ponto Letrão is something like this high, where it's placed usually in shopping centers, and people can put in their old appliances. So Ponto Letrão should be full, so we make a collection. Usually the logistics is 1 van, 2 people, and a pallet cart. It includes cleaning if it's dirty, because if it's in a shopping centers don't want, something dirty in their parking lot. It's usually around 260 kilograms per collection here. Then we have this different means of collection, which is for usually for batteries and toners. And it's postal services. So a normal postal service, we developed a box in partnership with the postal services, so that whatever is placed there is safe to be transported, along with people's orders from Amazon. It must be closed in a box, ready for collection. We have to say the collection site, make sure it's ready for collection. 1 full box minimum, and it's around 30 kilos per collection here. Then there's the general collection service, which is at a company, at a site. It doesn't need to be in a collection box specific. At least 150 kilos of e-waste in that place. Lamps and batteries should always be sorted in different boxes for safety reasons. Already 1 van, 2 people on pallet cart. It's around 600 kilos per collection here. Then there's containers. These containers are 30 square meter containers. They're covered. The container is collected full and replaced with an empty one. It's around 2,500 kilos per collection here. So this is different kinds of logistics to adapt to different sizes and different sites, because some sites will produce 30 kilos per year. Some sites will produce several times. So you need to adjust what logistics we use for each site. In our collection services, what we developed also is like containers. We have all these containers on the top half, which are made of cardboard. You'll be able to see them tomorrow live. And these can be sent via postal service and then been collected full from locations. Then you have also this the containers, the 30 square meter, these small containers. We have this one you'll be able to see tomorrow as well. They're like boxes that could have 1 square meter and are used by logistics to deliver empty, collect full, make things faster in collection. Then we have the Ponto Letrão. Ponto Letrão is a big brand for Electron. Electron wasn't called Electron when it was born 20 years ago. It was called M3Z. And it's because of this equipment, this container, it is now called Electron. So in order to organize the collection services, Electron has a platform, software. This is where our clients, our collection clients, the collection sites can register. They can request a collection. They can request new boxes, new containers. They can receive updates on their requests. The collection will be such day. And they also can access documentation because in Europe, a lot of documentation needs to be produced officially so that you can do a transportation of e-waste. So they can access relevant documentation here. But this is not enough. So we have these smiley faces. This is our contact center. They did this joke because I asked them, well, I need to have a photo of the 4 of you for Monday. And they were working from home. So they did this. So waste management is something that is quite complicated. Even for companies, they don't have specialized people. So you need someone to make it easier. And that's the role of these 4 girls. They take in inbound email and phone, help with registration, help with collection requests, answer questions about legislation, making it simple. So they do a help desk for our platform. And they receive requests directly from households who need a collection service from the service we have directly to households. And also they do some outbound. They do campaigns via phone. They try to engage new collection sites. We have an interest in increasing our collection sites. We are outbound for that. Client activation. We haven't done a collection there for a long time. What's happening? Can we help? And so also sorting some logistical problems that can be sorted by communicating with our clients. Raising public awareness. So Ponto Leitão, that you can see, I think here you can see it. It was the first container in Europe for e-waste batteries. It's a great communication tool. And it's a great communication tool because when Electron started, it was called M3Z. And in 2019, around there, it became Electron. It became Electron because of Ponto Electron. Because still today, I talk to people and they refer to Electron as Ponto Electron, as this spot to place all the electronics. It was placed in around 200 collections. It's now placed in around 200 collection sites. And from here, we collect around 600 tons per year. Challenge here. It's robbed a lot. So we have it in 200 sites, and last year we did 400 repairs. Not good. We've placed different systems like this padlock and the bar, and this one has a big entry, but we've shortened the entry, make it smaller so people can get in, and nothing works. So it's a challenge, but still it's important in terms of communicating and telling people there is a place you can place your old electronic device. Retail. By legislation, retail needs to be a collection point in Europe. So, and for instance, if you buy a new refrigerator, the retailer will take the old one free of charge. And the old one that they take needs to be delivered to PRO. And also for some for batteries, all retailers that sell batteries need to have a box so they can take back old batteries from consumers. So in terms of retail, we work at around 100 collection sites in retail, 1,000, I'm sorry, and represents over 3,000 tons per year in terms of e-waste collected. Then we have Quartel Electrão. Quartel Electrão is a communication campaign in partnership with fire stations. Fire stations in Portugal are run by volunteer firefighters associations. And usually there is one in each municipality, sometimes two, and they have some space. And they need funding. They're volunteer organizations, they need funding. So we set up this campaign with them where they become a collection point and we pay them 75 euros per ton, value per ton collected. And also we have a campaign every year where one of the prizes is a firefighting vehicle. So this has become really important in Portugal. Currently we work with around 200, just over 200 collection sites in firefighter associations. And it collects 2,400, 2,500 tons per year. So it's very important for us in terms of collection sites and volume collected. And it also means funding for these organizations. So 265,000 euros were given to volunteer firefighters associations last year. In terms of community engagement, firefighter associations are really powerful because people need them. So if you see information on their social media, a postcard, a big card outside the firefighter station. Bring us your old appliances and we'll make money from that. People will contribute. So it's in terms of communication, it really works. Schools, obviously, when you want to change behavior, you need to start with the small ones, the younger ones. So Electron has set up this campaign for schools, where schools become collection points. And also they get prizes from what they collect. And also do some educational challenges to incentivize children to learn about what is e-waste and why it should be collected separately and why it needs to be treated a certain way. So Escola Electron, we have over 500 schools engaged. And it collected last year over 300 tons. And it was an investment of over 26,000 € in prizes for schools. Household waste management systems. These are where urban waste is taken, these organizations, and they have a responsibility to manage all urban waste, also waste produced in households. And what we do is make partnerships with them, where we pay them some money for what we collect there, and give them also the means, the containers, so that they can segregate what is e-waste, and we can then collect it to specialized treatment facilities. We have around 300 collection sites, and it means over 5,800 tons per year, or last year, at least. So, porta a porta. Porta a porta means door to door. And this is a new service that was set up in 2021. No, it was 2021. Yeah, we're in masks. So, when you have an old refrigerator in your house and you're not buying a new one, what happens? How can you take care of that and dispose of it? So this was a problem, and the solution that existed prior was that usually the municipality, the local government, would have a pickup system that usually said to people, place it outside your house. And that meant that most were taken by informal markets, by people who would not take proper care of old appliances. And also people sometimes don't have the physical capacity to take a big appliance and place it on the street. So that was a challenge. So we decided to set up in highly urbanized areas a pickup service that goes inside the consumer's home, inside the home, and takes that big appliances and takes it directly into a consolidation facility. It doesn't go to a facility where other waste is treated, because every time you do a waste travels, it gets lost. We don't know why. It disappears into thin air. Electric waste, at least. So currently we're working with 8 municipalities in the greater Lisbon area, and just to give you an idea, it represents around 1.5 million people right now have access to this service. We currently have 4 collection teams who go out every day to collect. You'll be able to see these vans and the collection coming in. And we do over 500 services per month. In 2023, it was 203 tons. I think this year will be like 3 times this, at least, because it's growing. We started with just 1 municipality and has been growing since 2021. So sometimes people have this doubt. Well, I have an old iPhone. Where do I take it to be recycled? And we decided to set up a website. So this website, you can be at your home and say, where can I drop off my old batteries? And it will tell you the nearest location where you can drop off your electronics and batteries. It's really easy. So we make, for instance, we make these agreements with collection sites that are open to general public. and then we place them here so that people can search them and look for the nearest location. This is all I had, but I'm open to questions and, well, getting your heads together to, maybe setting up your own collection services in your own countries.
So regarding the only campaign that you have conducted in the schools, have you monitored after that? Do you have like a results about how does it affect the children and their mind concept?
How does it affect children? Well, the main thing is educating, right? So we're educating, we're setting up a collection place in the school, but also we're developing educational activities. For instance, we have this educational activity that is, we ask children to make like a small video where they focus on why we should recycle, for instance, or why you should separate your garbage. What happens if you put a used battery in the wrong thing, in the wrong container? And they give us back this information, because today information is really accessible online. So then you just see the children give you back, this information they learned about online, and they make these really funny videos about what you should do with your old appliances. So I think this is what shows us, we don't have any numbers, obviously, but this shows us that children are aware and that they're really willing to do the right thing. So.
Actually, thank you, because you actually had me to delete around 10 slides from my presentation regarding the challenge. So
Okay.
Thank you very much. But remains one slide regarding the informal sector. I think you still have the same problem regarding the informal sector and the involvement in the system and that. So we need to hear some solutions or
Solutions for the informal sector. Help me. I have none. Well, solutions.
I know there is still a problem because their involvement in the system, the value that they retain regarding the robbery or the taking the lead from the collection points and all of that. But still, I think from what we had seen, you are much more have a system more than the developing countries or some of the countries that are sitting here. So we need to also maybe.
So solutions. One of the solutions, obviously, going into the household and collecting directly from the household. This is a solution. Also, we've been working with retail. So retail, when they sell a new product, they have to take back the old one. And we've been working with them, and they have been, because usually they contract the logistics for this, they contract it to a third company. And there was a bit of a leakage. And now they're controlling more these suppliers, because they're asking directly to the consumer, do you have an old appliance? And if then the old appliance doesn't come up, their storage, the supplier doesn't bring it back, they'll ask the consumer, well, what happened? You said you had an old appliance to deliver. What happened? And this is making the logistics this company that does the logistics accountable to what happens. But for instance, in the waste management, the household waste management systems, which are owned and run by municipalities, we haven't reached, any improvements there. So and Ponto Eletron, which is great communication tool, great idea, but people get in. Tomorrow we'll be able to see one inside, and they will show you what changes we've made to make it, less vulnerable to theft, but nothing works perfectly. Basically, we've been making complaints about thefts in Ponte Letrão, and nothing happens. How does the police investigate that? Someone in a car with this license plate came in and took something from Ponte Letrão. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
My question is obvious that the European structure is helping the was treating and recycling. But in reality, is there any changes in regard of the European policies, such to reach some targets? Can you tell us what?
So you're asking the challenge that we face when we're trying to do what is asked of PRO. So PROs are currently asked to take back, recycle 45% what is placed on market.
It's decreased now. One of the actions that we have actually were succeeded in this new license is to lower our collection target. We consistently fail the targets every year, so we were able to convince our authorities to have a more crescent increase of the targets and not the 65, which is
because every country it's different the capacities of
but the target is related to the put on the market. Adapts to every country. But it's like a percentage of what is placed on the market in the previous year.
So in the previous years, there was a certain amount of tons of appliances that was placed in market, were sold to consumers. And the idea is that we have to collect and recycle a percentage of that. So, and we are legal, as a PRO, we are legally abided to set up a system that is able to collect that amount. And then obviously all these challenges that we faced in formal markets and all that, it prevents us from reaching those targets. So
we have a lot of projects to improve the amounts that we collect, because at the moment we and the majority of the European countries are not achieving the targets that are established. I think one of the good things that we achieved also with this license is based on all actors involved. So in the previous license, the PROs were seen as the sole responsible for meeting the targets, the national targets. And what we were able to convince our authorities is that municipalities have responsibilities, retailers have responsibilities. So it's not fair that the PRO is solely responsible for a national target when there are other agents involved and we depend on them to meet the target. So I think a good solution to establish a PRO from scratch is to involve all the stakeholders that have a direct impact on the collection and make them accountable for the national.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We'll now take a break for lunch, which will be served in the restaurant downstairs. We will be back in an hour for starting at 3 p.m. sharp, please. See you soon. Welcome back. We hope you had an enjoyable lunch. Let's continue with our program. Our next speaker is Susana Ferreira, Waste Management Director at Eletrão, who will focus on waste electric equipment facilities. Please, Susana.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our treatment facilities. Treatment facilities especially dedicated to the WEEE, okay? And we will have the opportunity to visit 2 of them in the next days. So let's learn a little more about it. So as my colleague mentioned in the presentation before, the waste that we collect in our collection network is sent to the consolidations or reception centers, where the waste is sorted by category. And then, after that, sent to our waste treatment operators. It's like how we call it, waste treatment operators, okay? Our legislation, and that is the current from the European legislation, divides the waste in 6 categories, okay? So the first category is temperature exchange equipment, like refrigerators, air conditioning, exhaust ventilation, etc. Category 2 is screens, monitors, and equipment with screens above 100 square centimeters. Okay. Category 3 is lamps, and that includes fluorescent lamps, but also LED lamps. Yes, I don't know if in your countries you are already seeing the LED lamps coming into the market. Yeah, so it's all included in this category. Category 4 is large equipment, like large household appliances, washing machines, dishing machines, but also another type of equipments like luminaires, musical equipment, large printer machines. So is everything that is not hazardous and is big. Category 5, small equipment like vacuum cleaners, carpet sweepers, microwaves, irons. And finally, category 6, small IT, okay? Like mobile phones, GPS, calculators, printers, etc. These are the legal categories. These categories, they came from the legislation, and this categorization is used for the producers to declare the amounts they place on the market, okay? And these categories are mainly defined to classify the products, not the waste. So, in terms of waste, we work with different categories. So just to explain a little bit more, how we classify these categories. Because some of them we classify it as hazardous, so we need to use an European waste code that indicates that is a dangerous equipment. And other types of categories, we consider it non-hazardous, even though in their interior they may contain a component or substances that are considered hazardous. But in the global, the category is considered non-hazardous. The category 1, which has the fridges, air conditioning, we consider it hazardous, okay? Maybe I will be here. Category 2, the screens and monitors, we also consider it hazardous. Category 3, the lamps, also hazardous because they contain mercury, mainly. Category 4, 5, and 6, so the big appliances, the small appliances, and IT, we consider it non-hazardous. Non-hazardous.
So they contain some hazardous material?
They can contain some hazardous components or substances, but we classify a washing machine or a printer, we classify it as non-hazardous with a waste code of non-hazardous equipment. Yeah?
How come that for laptops, for example, the screen is a hazardous material? It contains the same like TV.
Yeah. The laptops, they are considered, because it depends on the size of the screen. If it complies in the category 2, it's considered hazardous. If it's considered in the category 6, in the IT, is considered non-hazardous. Yeah? But the treatment, and that's a reason why in terms of operational management, we don't work in the legal categories. Yeah. So in terms of waste, we consider that these legal categories doesn't fit. Because in the example you just gave, a laptop can be considered hazardous because it has a screen. So we need to go to treatment at the same place as a screen or a monitor. Yeah. So in terms of waste, we classify it in different categories. And in some cases, in the legal category, we need to subdivide it in subcategories in order to guarantee that the waste is sent to the right treatment partner and it is recycled correctly. Yeah? For example, in category 1, we divide refrigerators and freezers, air conditioning, and other equipment. Because the refrigerators and freezers need to go to a two-phase treatment that you will be able to see tomorrow in Ambi Group. You need to have a phase 1 to get out the oil, and then a phase 2 to fragmentate the refrigerator and get the oil out of the polyurethane. Yeah? For example, lamps. We separate lamps, normal lamps that contain mercury, from the LED. Because the LED, we consider it non-hazardous, it doesn't contain mercury, so it can go under a treatment more not so expensive and more simple than the correct treatment of fluorescent lamps. And what do these treatment partners do? Because many times we call them recyclers, but they are not recycling. So our treatment partners, what they do is dismantle the e-waste in fractions or components. Yeah? For example, using manual processes or automatic processes, and some processes like magnetic separation by optical means, they dismantle the WEEE in different fractions like glass, plastic, paper, metal, wood, or other material, hazardous materials. Then, therefore, they are sent to recycling. Yeah? So the treatment partners that we work with, they are not recyclers. They are waste management operators, dismantling the WEEE in different fractions, and then they send the fractions to the real recyclers that they use the material to incorporate it in products, in new products, and recycling for efficiency. Regarding the fractions that are resulting from the WEEE dismantling, we classified in two groups. Critical fractions, when they are fractions used to evaluate the efficiency of the pollution. For example, looking at a screen, an old screen, the ones that have a box behind, you have two types of glasses in the screen. The frontal glass and the back glass, which we call it tube glass. The tube glass has lead, so you need to separate it and send it to a specific treatment place. And we consider that a critical fractions because we need to evaluate if our treatment partner is dismantling the monitors correctly and sending these fractions to a correct disposal center. Yeah? Other fractions like the CFCs, the pure foam, or the capacitors or batteries help us to know if the treatment partner is treating the WEEE that we send there to treat. For example, a small equipment, it is expected that treating 1 ton of small equipment results in 1.8 kilos of batteries. So we need to monitor these amounts that are dismantled by the treatment partners in order to guarantee that the treatment is efficient. Okay? Then we have another non-critical fractions. So fractions that don't have a legal requirement for selective treatment, but they are separated and they have their own market, let's say, because we are talking about metal, plastic, so it's fractions that are not mainly hazardous and they have their own market for the destination. Here I leave you some treatment requirements and standards. And how did it start in Portugal? So in 2002, we had the European directive, yeah, that was implemented into our national law in 2004. Then in 2006, we had the first PRO license for we. One of them was Electron. Then in 2009, we had an European association, WILABEX, that derived from the WE Forum, where a group of European PRO get together to establish some requirements for the treatment. Requirements for the efficiency of the treatment, for the fractions that need to be separated, for the targets that need to be achieved for that fractions, okay? And then in 2011, the WILABEX organization established and became a standard for treatment. And then Senelec appropriated that standard, and it became a Senelec standard. So at the moment, we have Senelec standards that where all the treatment facilities can try to achieve. They need to do an audit, they need to do batch tests in order to guarantee that they fulfill all the requirements to become certified by this normative Senelec. At the moment, there are specialist auditors to certify the treatment partners with this normative. Yeah. We have, in Portugal, we already have a few of treatment partners that are certified by these Senelec standards. Yeah. At the moment in Portugal, it's not mandatory, but in our tenders, we try to guarantee that the treatment partners that are certified by Senelec have a good punctuation, yes, in order to be selected to send the waste to be treated there. So the Senelec, I'm not going to be very dense in this explanation, but you will have all the slides. Yes, you will have all the information with you. And if you have any question, you are free to contact us and ask all you want. But in Senelec, you have a normative for all of these treatments. Yeah, some specific to displays, for lamps, for photovoltaic panels. It's all in there. In Portugal, our national law implemented some rules years ago that the treatment partners need to comply in order to get their permit and to get the authorization to work with e-waste. Yes? So there are a lot of principles that they need to comply. It's very dense and complex. It's not easy to become qualified to become a waste treatment operator of WE. Yes, so we have some management principles. They need to maintain a record of everything that gets in their installation and everything that gets out. They also need to identify some person that is responsible for the installation. Regarding the infrastructure needs to be suitable for the activities that they are carried out. So they need to have storage and treatment areas with impermeable surfaces and waterproof covers, spill collection, or in some cases they need to have decanters and degreasers. And they also need to have waterproof cover for gas discharge lamps, equipment with a cathode tube, so the TV screens, the old TV screens that I mentioned before, and equipment with flat screens. They also need to have a risk assessment and be prepared to every risk they identified. The employees need to be training to treat the e-waste. They need to have instructions and clear instructions and orientation to do their day-to-day work. And they need to be aware of the hazards that they are dealing with. We are talking, for example, the lamps. They need to have orientations in order to manage and handle the lamps, and they need to be aware of the dangers they are incurring with. They also need to wear specific personal protective equipment, and all of this is analyzed when the national authorities go there for the verification of the compliance. They also need to guarantee, this is a very difficult criteria to guarantee, they need to go the downstream monitoring. For example, the fractions that they produce in the WEEE dismantling, they need to guarantee all the steps until the final destination. They need to follow the fraction in order to guarantee that, for example, the plastic, the metal, the capacitor is recycled. And they need to have registrations, documentation of all of these steps. Okay? So this is very difficult to achieve because the subsequent operators, they need to be confident of the costs, of the prices they pay for the treatment of the fractions and of their clients. So it's very difficult for a treatment operator to follow all the steps until the end of some of the fractions. Some general technical requirements. So they need to have orientations in order to handle the material, but also they need to make sure that they clean and or destruct all the stored material that they have. For example, disks on the computers or some memories regarding the IT equipment. They need to guarantee that they destroy and all the confidential and personal data that are stored in this type of equipment. Receiving the WEEE. So every waste, e-waste that enters their facility, they need to record the origin, they need to do the sorting in categories, and they need to register in their own platform, in their own documentation, but they need to have all the records of all the entrances by origin and by category. Yeah. I already talked about the handling. So, regarding the storage prior to treatment, it's the same. They need to have impermeable surfaces and coverings, and they need to guarantee that they store the material already sorted. So if after they receiving the material and before it is going to the lines of processing in the treatment, they need to store all the material separated. They can mix fridges with washing machines or with small equipments. Everything needs to be stored separately. Decontamination. So our national law establishes a list of materials and substances that need to mandatory be removed from e-waste. Yes, for example, capacitors, the PCBs, batteries. It's mandatory to separate these substances and these components from the WEEE. Some of them are hazardous, some of them not, but they all need to be separated before the fragmentation, because after that you cannot separate a battery or a capacitor anymore. This decontamination needs to be monitorized. For example, the batteries. You need to remove the batteries before the fragmentation of small IT. If you don't do that, when you go to the fragmentation process, the cadmium, the nickel that is in the batteries contamines other fractions. So in the miniaturization, you need to do laboratory analysis to the other fractions, for example, plastics and metals, to guarantee that they are not contaminated with the fractions that comes from the mandatory removal fractions. Yes? they need to do a separation not only about the we before the treatment, but the fractions after the treatment. So the hazardous substances cannot be mixed with non-hazardous substances. Everything needs to be separated in different containers, and sometimes the containers need to be sealed, like the ones you see here. When you have an hazardous fraction, you need to seal the containers. For example, lithium batteries or something like that is removed from the we. You need to seal the containers. Another criteria or requisite that these treatment partners need to comply is the recycling and recovery targets. So they have targets that they need to fulfill in order to be qualified to be a treatment we partner. You have targets for recycling and different targets for recovery. And to calculate these targets, you need to do what we call a batch test. So you need to have an audit in the field, processing the e-waste, and the auditors will measure what gets in, the fractions that get out, and then they need to assess the destination of these fractions in order, first, to guarantee that the process is efficient, and second, to guarantee the destination of these fractions to calculate the targets. For example, the fractions that are sent for recycling, they are contabilized in the recycling target. But you have some fractions that are sent to incineration with the energy recovery. And that fraction is considered as recovery, not as recycling. So these batch tests, they represent, it's like a picture of the day-to-day operation of the treatment operator. And they need to have a sample that is representative of the waste they usually treat. And then the auditor analyzes all the steps of the process. Yeah. And of course, the fractions that may be contaminated with other fractions, they need to go to a laboratory to get analyzed. So the fraction resulting from the weed treatment process may reach the end of waste status, or, and in that case, then they can get incorporated in a product or something like that, or they can be sent to recycling, recovery, or disposal. Okay, we have some fractions that, like the CFC, that has to go for disposal, is not possible to recycle. All of these criteria and requisites, they need to be contained in different documentation that the treatment facilities need to guarantee all the time, because they can get selected by an inspection, for example, and if an inspection goes there to their facility, they need to show all of this documentation. Yeah, for example, the records of entrances and exits of the facility, the treatment flow charts, the decontamination monitoring records, training records. So they need to record all of these steps in order to be ready to show them if they request it. So as you see, it's difficult to comply with all these steps in order to be qualified to be a treatment partner. Yeah. So now I will show you some of the flow charts of treatment by category and the main fractions that normally are separated in our treatment facilities. Okay, maybe just before to let you know that in Portugal we have capacity at the moment to treat all the weed that we are collecting. We have 2 main facilities. One of them you are visiting tomorrow, MB Group, that treats the fridges, so the exchange temperature equipments. We have one nearby and one in the north. Regarding the treatment of screens, we have 3 treatment partners already in the country. Lamps, we only have 1. We had 2, but one of them closed. So we are already depending on only one treatment operator for the lamps. And for the large, small, and IT, we have a lot because they are non-hazardous. And so a lot of the treatment operators, waste treatment operators, so there's no need to have a specific installation or some kind of equipment to treat this type of waste. So a washing machine, a small equipment, you can really use just a manual dismantling to do the dismantling of this equipment. So regarding the category 1, for example, a fridge, you have 2 phases of the treatment. The first phase is to get out the oil of the compressor. Yeah. So you have a part of initial dismantling where you get the cables, the engines to then get the oil, the plastic, so the, how do you call it, that's inside the fridge is to place the shelves, right? So you collect the shelves and the glass and the oil. And then in the second phase, then the rest of the equipment goes into fragmentation in a closed environment in order to, with the nitrogen, in order to prevent explosions and also to get the oil out of the foam, of the polyurethane foam. Yes. Also in the second phase, you have a lot of separation, magnetic separation, optic separation, in order to get the other type of fractions. Ferrous metals, non-ferrous metals, plastics. So regarding category 1, these are the medium material composition. Yeah. So you can see that most of the fractions that came out of the treatment are ferrous metals, but also non-ferrous metal and plastics. It's the polyurethane foam. Yeah. So I'm not going into detail of all these numbers, but you get the presentation, and any questions that you want to ask, please then ask after. Looking at, I didn't mention, but in the presentation you will also get this link, and this link goes to a video where you can see the treatment, okay? The lines of the treatment, the process, all the process. Tomorrow you will see it live, but in here you can get the link, and you can also watch it on YouTube. So regarding category 2, and in this case CRT screens, screens with cathodic ray tubes, they go first to a manual dismantling, then the CRT cut, where they separate the front glass and the tube glass, and then a vacuuming. They need to vacuum all the luminous layer in the tube glass. So you have these images, but tomorrow you will see it live. Yeah. The flat screens, they have a different treatment process. It starts also with a manual dismantling, and then they have a component removal. One of the fractions resulting from the treatment of flat screens are lamps. And the lamps, they need to go to a correct recycler in order to be correctly treated. Regarding the screens, these are the the average material composition. Yes, so mainly they are composed of glass, plastic, ferrous metal, and some mandatory removal fractions like the tube glass and the lamps. Looking at the lamps, you have two types of treatment that you can apply to the lamps: a wet method and a dry method. In Portugal, when we had two treatment facilities, each one of them had a different method. At the moment, the one that is still working is using a dry method. So in the dry method, you do a fragmentation of the lamps, and then with different types of separation, magnetic separation, gravitational, eddy current, you separate the different fractions: ferrous metal, non-ferrous metal, and of course, the phosphorus powder. That is the fraction that is containing the mercury, and that needs to be treated and distilled in order to get back the mercury that can be used to produce another lamps. So looking at the average material composition of lamps, of course that 79% is glass, so we have a lot of glass, but also plastic and non-ferrous metals. Yeah? And this is mainly the fluorescent lamps, because if we are talking about LED lamps, you don't have a lot of glass, but a lot of plastic. And that is becoming a problem for us, because the amounts of LED lamps are starting to increase. And it's not that easy to achieve the recycling targets with LED lamps, because you have a lot of plastic, and mainly this plastic may contain brominated retardants, and you can't send it to recycling just like that. You need to go to different processes in order to recycle this plastic. So it's very difficult to achieve the recycling targets with LED lamps. At the moment, we don't have that problem, because LED represent more or less 7 or 8% of our lamp collection. But when this shifts, it will become a problem. Yeah? We won't be able to achieve the recycling targets. Looking at the large appliances like a washing machine, it starts with a manual dismantling where you can remove the batteries, the compressor, and then it goes through a fragmentation process where you have a magnetic separation, eddy current separation, and separate all of the fractions. The main part of the washing machines, they end up in the fragmentation places, like big scrap dealers, where the metal is fragmented. Looking at the average material composition, you have a lot of ferrous metal, and that is the reason why mainly this type of equipment ends up in the informal sector. Yeah. Looking at a small category and IT. So in here, it's a very small equipment. Yes, you have like an air conditioner. How do you call it? A vacuum cleaner or some mobile phone. So they are very small equipment, but still you need to guarantee the depollution. You have removable mandatory fractions that need to be treated separately. So sometimes you do a manual dismantling, and then you can guarantee that all of these fractions are removed. But sometimes, and some of our partners, they do a fragmentation process. And after the fragmentation, they do a manual sorting in order to guarantee that all these fractions are removed, like batteries, printed circuit boards, toners, lamps. Looking at the average material composition. In category 5, so small equipment, you have ferrous metals, non-ferrous metals, plastic, but also some glass. In the category 6, that is the IT equipment, you don't have a lot of ferrous metals, but you have a lot of plastic also. Yeah. So in here you have, I will show you the detail to this category, but in the previous slides you had this detail for the others also. So in the Senelec standards that I mentioned before, they establish some reference values that need to be complied by these treatment operators in order to be certified. For example, they need to achieve capacitors removal over 1 kilo per ton treated. They need to achieve 1.8 kilos of battery by 1 ton of wheat treated. And these are evidence based in the assessment of the waste guides. I don't know if you use it in your countries, but in Portugal, when a waste is transported from one place to the other, there's a legal document that is called Waste Transportation Guide. And they need to be signed. At the moment, it's a digital document in a platform of the government, but they need to be signed by the origin, by the transport, and by the destination. Yes. So in base of these documents and this evidence, we assess the amounts of capacitors, batteries, and other type of waste. But you also need to guarantee the decontamination. So you need to guarantee that some substances are correctly being separated and they don't appear in the fractions of metal or plastic. And for that, you use laboratory analysis to guarantee that there is or there isn't presence of that substance. Well, as mainly you are all involved in the energy, we get this information to share with you. It's the photovoltaic panels. So in Portugal, the photovoltaic panels are included in category 4, large equipments. There is no specific category for the photovoltaic panels. And in Europe, the solar industry has been growing since the last few years, and we already watch this in Portugal, okay? But that is a really big challenge. What do you do when all of these panels reach the end of their useful life? And their useful life, they may be 15, 20 years, but in Portugal, we are already watching and receiving panels for recycling when they reach 5, 6, 7 years. And why? Because there is a big growth in the production of photovoltaic panels, and the technologies are improving. So there are places where they are replacing old technologies by new technologies and delivering the old ones to recycling, okay? And sometimes in 5, 6 years after they're being placed. Regarding the average composition of photovoltaic panels, there is a lot of glass, of course, but you have a lot of aluminium, plastic, but other substances that are considered critical raw materials, like silicon, copper, silver, zinc. So it's really important to try to collect these substances and these components to get back these materials and use it in production. This is the average composition, material composition, and then you have a value composition. And you can see that, for example, the silicon, it's very valuable. And the copper and the silver, they are also very valuable. They appear in small amounts in the photovoltaic panels, but they have a lot of value. So we need to guarantee that the treatment that we are doing to these equipments can permit us to get back these substances and these materials in order to use them in the production. Just to get you some data from Electron regarding the photovoltaic panels. In the bars, you can show the evolution of the put on market. So it's been increasing since 2020. And in the line, you can see the collection. So it also has been increasing, but in a small order. Yeah. So, for example, last year, 3,000 tons were placed in the market, but we only collected 186. Okay. So this is one of the problems for achieving the collection targets, because the collection target is calculated regarding the placed on market, the amounts placed on market. So it's a huge challenge at the moment. Now I'd like to show you some results regarding the treatment in Electron in last year. And one of the results that we are proud of is the reuse. Yes? Preparation for reuse. So in 2023, we prepared for reuse 1,162 tons. And this was achieved by working with our partners, the producers that work with us, but also with some social company that we work with, and with the Electron Reuse Center that you will be able to visit tomorrow also. Yeah? So with our growing in the operational area, Electron, with the door-to-door collection and other type of collection, we can look at the waste that we are collecting and sort the ones that have potential for reuse. And we separate them and we send it to our partners that can do all the checkings and all the tryings to see if it works, if it doesn't work. And then we normally used to give it for social purposes, yeah, for companies that comply with associations that need this material. So it's like more or less like a donation. Regarding the treatment results, we don't work only with national operators. We also work with Spain, that it's right next door. But mainly we treat all the weed that we collect with national operators. Only 7% goes to Spain. And here you can see the amounts that we treated the previous year. The large amounts are category 4, category 1, but also small and IT. Yeah? And here are our results regarding the mandatory removal fractions. So this means that for the whole amount that we treated, we removed 4,895 tons of the mandatory removable fractions. That are all of these represented here. Capacitors, components with mercury, batteries, plastic with brome retardant, lamps, glass tube. Yeah. So we need to comply with all of these numbers, and we need to document all of this in our annual report. After the removing of these mandatory removable fractions, we get another fractions that are not they are not hazardous, so they are not mandatory removable fractions, but we also account like ferrous metals, non-ferrous metals, plastics, glass, and others. Yeah. Regarding the recycling and the recovery targets. So last year, we achieved a global recycling rate of 76% and a recovery rate of 83%. The legal targets are the ones shown in red in the graphics. They are different from category to category, okay? For example, looking at the reuse and recycling rate, we didn't achieve the recycling rate in category 3, lamps, because one of the treatment partners facilities that we worked with, the one that closed, the last amount of glass, they didn't send it to a recycler. They send it to disposal. So we cannot account it as recycled, and for that reason we didn't achieve the legal target of 80%. But in all the other categories, the target was achieved. In here, it's the information that I shared before, the amount that was related to the mandatory removable fraction that represent 80.5% depollution rate. And that's it. If you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Regarding to the recovery rate and recycling rate, yes, it's confused for me. Is the difference between
the difference?
Yes.
The recycling rate, it's pure recycling. It's when you use the material to incorporate in a product. Recovery rate, it's when you above the recycling, you also consider the incineration with energy recovery. Okay? Because here you can have incineration with no energy recovery, and that is considered disposal, elimination. But if you have incineration with energy recovery, it's accountable in the recovery rate. Yeah.
Like another question regarding to the number of treatment facilities or incineration facilities.
Yeah.
How many facilities all over the world?
Well, treatment facilities, it's very difficult to account. Regarding we consider the hazardous. That's not a lot of them. It's 4 or 5. But we have a lot of waste treatment operators that treat the non-hazardous waste.
I'm talking about the hazardous.
About the hazardous, we have 4. Yeah. We will visit Ambi Group tomorrow that treat fridges and screens that are considered as hazardous. And like that, we only have one other in the north. It's enough at the moment for the amounts that we are collecting. Yeah. Yes.
On the same slide, first question: who set the targets?
The targets are sent in it's our national law. It's in a decree law.
I know that every industry have its targets, so it is dependent on the amount of materials itself or another settings. Second question, you didn't achieve target in lamps because it's only 2 companies, one out of market.
Yeah.
That means that it is not profitable or it's difficult. So any incentives you need to do in this field to attract more companies?
Yeah. Well, regarding the targets, they are set by our government. It's in a decree law. And then they get these targets to our licenses, to the PRO licenses. So we as a PRO need to achieve that national targets that are defined in the national law, but it becomes from the directive, the European directive. Yeah. Regarding the lamps, we had 2 facilities, and one of them, if it's profit, maybe it's not that profit, but we as a PRO pay for the treatment of the lamps and for the other hazardous categories. For example, for the fridges, the screens, the lamps, we pay for the treatment. And for example, it's just a number, but for lamps, we pay around €650 per ton for the treatment of the lamps. But the amounts that we are collecting, it's more or less 300 tons per year. They didn't find it efficient or sufficient because they had another business already developing regarding the electrical part, the electrical sector. And so they decided to abandon the lamps and dedicate to the other sector of activity. And another reason, they treated the fluorescent lamps, and their installation, their facility was becoming a little old. So they need to invest some money to do some modifications in the processing line. And as we see, the fluorescent lamps are decreasing and the LED are increasing. So they did the maths and they didn't decide to do the investment to continue with the process of the lamps. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susanna. The next presentation will be followed by a short question and answer session. So please feel free to make note of any question you might have. So last but not least, it's time to meet the country's presentation. And for that, we have the privilege to call Ahmed Abdul Rasul. Please.
So thank you very much for the knowledgeable information and data that we had received from our colleagues and hosting agency Electro today. And actually, most of the content in my presentation was covered by the colleagues. So we will focus on the 8 countries that we were dealing with in the meetMED project. You know, the meetMED project is focusing on 8 Arab countries in the Mediterranean area: Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and State of Palestine. So when we started, we had performed at the beginning what's named by the fact sheet. The fact sheet, we were aiming to have a survey for the existing situation for appliances, scrapping system and the management system in the 8 countries. So we had developed what we named the fact sheet. The fact sheet covers the current status for the institutional structure for management in the 8 countries, the infrastructure, the legislation, the private sector existing, the NGOs, awareness campaigns that had been performed, the collection system itself and its efficiency. And at the end, we had developed 5 fact sheets because these are the countries that we considered have much reliable and more data that has, more accurate. Other 3 countries have a lot of uncertainty in the data. So at this stage, we decided to focus only on 5 countries: Morocco, Tunisia, Jordan, Egypt, and at the end, we have also Lebanon. We are developing the fact sheet these days. And out of the fact sheets, we had identified some talking points. Actually, as I said, I had changed some during the day. I had changed some of the content of the presentation. So I will go directly to as we had said, we had a collection system all over the world that had started by 53 million tons that had been generated globally, and they are nowadays reaching 73 million tons of waste that had been generated. But the most outdated data that are available regarding the Arab region, that by the year 2019, we had the amount of the waste that had been generated reached around 61% than that in 2010. And the collection system didn't exceed more than 0.1% of the collected waste that could be considered as waste. So we have a very big gap between the existing equipment in the household or the commercial sector and the collection and the treatment system for this waste. As we had said, that including within these devices, there are valuable materials. And when we look about the valuable materials, such our colleague had said, you may find gold, silver, copper, lead, and aluminium. And these materials by 2019, according to the existing generated amount, they cost for around $3 billion. So we are losing opportunity of around $3 billion annually because we are not capable to treat the generated annually. So we had performed a questionnaire to identify why we are not capable to collect the existing equipment and why this amount had been generated in these massive amounts. We are talking about 61% in around 10 years. So the first common point, and here we are talking about the whole 8 countries. These are the common points that had been shared between all of them. Of course, the shorter lifespan. Our colleague here from Egypt was talking about the fridge that stands for around 20 years. But I guarantee now that there is no any device that could stand more than 7 to 10 years. So shorter lifespan requires more alternatives to be used in the household. Of course, the rapid change in the equipment. All of us had used from not more than 14 years a personal phone, a mobile phone in a certain shape. And nowadays we're changing our phones sometimes annually because of the rapid technology. The household equipment, washing machines, the fridge, they became more smarter. The people need to use more technology and more smarter technology, so they start to change these equipment and accordingly cause an increase in the waste generated. Urbanization. And this is what clearly in the last 15 years that the movement, the socio-economic change in the Arab region, people are moving from rural areas to urban areas. The urbanization, the mode of life has been changed, required also other way to use equipment and to make use of more types of equipment in the household. Also, for example, in the kitchen, you used to have only, nowadays you have to have a washing machine, you have to have a dish machine, you have to also have an oven and a microwave, and all of these equipment are considered also WE. And of course, the absence of circular economy, which is totally clear in the amounts that we dispose annually in the sanitary landfills regarding the equipment. We don't have the concept of the circular economy regarding the reuse, the recycle, the recovery. And we had seen in the last presentation that the reuse of the equipment is considered one of the topics that have to be considered and is very additional, and considered also one of the KPIs of Electro, that they are capable to reuse the collected equipment. So as I said, I had removed a lot of challenges, but I kept only 2 challenges that are common in the 8 countries. The first one, of course, is the infrastructure. The whole 8 countries are lacking compatible infrastructure, starting from the collection. All of the countries don't have a collection system, collection points for the equipment that had to be disposed. We don't have a system for the disposal of the equipment to a certain company, to private companies. So the collection system is not available. The supply chain itself, the collection and the transfer of the equipment from the household or the collection points to the treatment facilities is not existing. And if it is existing, so it's like support regarding the logistics. And of course, at the end, the technology for the treatment and safe disposal, because as we had seen that at the end, although we had performed a lot of treatment for the appliances or the weeds that they had been generated, at the end we still have hazardous waste that has to be disposed to sanitary landfill, and this disposing mechanism, our landfilling mechanism, are not as much as required according to the international or even for the national standards. And this improper management for the e-waste causes also loss of areas for the landfills, because as we had seen, we had treated last year 22,000 tons of e-waste with Electro. Consider these 22,000 tons were not treated, and they are directly disposed to the landfill. So the landfill lifespan, instead of being around 10 years, you finish the cell in 2 or 3 years. So also you lose an area that could be managed properly. So the first common problem is the infrastructure. One of the common problems also is the informal sector. And the informal sector is existing and is existing strongly in the market. They are capable to, they have the access to the households. They have the way to collect the equipment. They have areas to start dismantling and treating the equipment. They have their way to export the precious materials or the valuable materials, such as the motherboards, for example, that include all the valuable materials, the gold, the silver, the copper, and all of that. And they are working out of the national laws and national conditions. So this is considered a gap. And accordingly, and as we had seen, that the informal sector affects 3 main barriers. And if we change this challenge into an opportunity, this will have a very good income on the government and on the country for the social effect, because when you are working in the informal sector, you don't have any health coverage and you are dealing with hazardous waste. So at the end, the government has to treat and has to take care of the health of these people working in the informal sector. Also the environmental effect, because they are working in very unacceptable environmental conditions, so they affect the air, the water, and of course these hazardous materials are capable to contaminate the air and water, and at the end this is returned back to the governments and to the people, because they have to take care of this pollution and to treat it. And of course, as I said in the beginning, a problem with the economy, because an economic opportunity has been lost because you didn't treat this equipment well. You didn't return back the precious materials and the raw materials that could be considered as a secondary raw material in different industries. So if we had treated this sector very good, had defined a very good way to endorse this informal sector, or at least have a parallel mechanism to make use of the existing in the countries, will be very additional for the 8 countries. So this is what we will do in the next steps. We will start supporting each country in its own to find the gap, support it with another alternatives to come over this gap, and the next stage to develop a methodology for the management according to each country. So I think this is more than enough for today. I thank you all for your patience. I thank again our colleague. I thank Electro team for their sharing their knowledge. Thank you. And tomorrow and after tomorrow we'll ask you more questions, of course. And thank you for your patience and your support. Thank you.